Outside the Zappos Theater at Planet Hollywood, history has been made tonight. The Sandow Trophy is going to Iran. Not sure how many people would have believed that statement if we made it about a year ago, but HADI CHOOPAN is your new Mr. Olympia. I'm joined alongside Chris the technician, Aceto, and Sergio Oliva Jr. Sergio, let's go to you first. Your immediate reaction, HADI CHOOPAN, the new Mr. Olympia.
I mean, happy. I mean, I think anyone who's not happy really deep down has got to be something wrong with you, or you're not really paying attention to the sport, because this guy could have won one already, you know, and let's be honest. And it's just such a heartfelt thing in this time of day with everything going on in Iran. It's almost just like a story, you know, written. And it's really just a great thing, but really what it's more of, and that's what everybody's gonna want to talk about, is how other people didn't do well and didn't win past Mr. Olympias. But I just don't want the focus to get away how great this is for HADI.
Chris, obviously the reference that Sergio is making is that HADI in his acceptance speech, you know, mentioned obviously the happiness of the people in Iran, but then also freedom for Iranian women, and we know what's going on in that country right now. We talked to him, meet the Olympians, and he talked about how he wanted to put a smile on the Iranian people's faces. But your immediate reaction, Chris, HADI CHOOPAN getting his hand raised.
HADI CHOOPAN, it's no surprise, because HADI CHOOPAN blew onto the scene in Korea at the 212, and he's a 212 guy. And everyone was talking about him, and then he went to Vancouver as an open guy, 218, looking 248. Everyone was talking about him. He went to his first Olympia, and at that first Olympia, he made a statement. And he's improved. He's been the most consistent guy in terms of bringing an Olympian elite level of conditioning with improvements every year. And it's a well-deserved win, and it's a changing of the guard, because it's a changing of the guard that 1 and 2 were previous 212 competitors.
Yeah.
That's unique. And Ramy is the last vestige of the lineups with Roden and Dexter and Wolf and Kai and Phil. He's the last guy who competed with that group. And here he is, you know, obviously not winning, but you're ushering in HADI as the winner. Sergio told me the first time he ever saw Derek, he said, quote, "This guy's the future of the sport," and he was like a 212 guy. So you got him coming up. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new blood. It's a big night, you know, when you digest it in its totality.
Well, let's talk about the journey that has been for HADI CHOOPAN. Chris mentioned that Vancouver Pro, and if you remember back then, he defeated Nathan Diasha, again, a prime open class bodybuilder, really making a statement. And 2019, again, last minute, getting the visa to come to the United States, and really, by many estimations, could have won that show, finishing third. Brandon Curry and William Bonai finishing 1 and 2. But then, of course, you know, again, the visa issues seem to be the common denominator. 2020 showing up a day before prejudging, and you remember what kind of an odyssey it was. But this time, Sergio, getting the visa, showing up to the United States 6 weeks in advance of the Olympia, and obviously you saw the fruits of that advanced prep, obviously the work that he's put in with HADI Ram. But talk specifically about what he brought to the stage. In your opinion, what won him the Mr. Olympia?
I mean, this guy's been a conditioned guy for a long time. He's really been probably the most conditioned for the last couple of years, and you know, right, conditioned win shows. But then it's just like, unless it's HADI, and it sucks. But he actually has looked more conditioned before, but I think he brought a little bit more size on this one, and maybe that definitely made him stand out a little bit more, especially with these bigger guys. So I think it was a combination of both. I think him being known for condition, and he definitely out-conditioned pretty much everyone, maybe besides Derek, in like the glutes and stuff like that. But him being fuller is just, you had to respect him. But yeah, one thing I just really wanted to say, like me now living in Dubai and being an American, one thing we just don't even think of, we hear about HADI having these visa issues, and really deep down we're just like, man, that sucks, you know, but that's really it. Now me living in Dubai, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are better than me and a lot of current pros, but you don't know about them because they cannot even come to this country. So this is huge for all of them, that now they have someone that they know, you know what, eventually they can make it through and do this, because exactly, I break down for the smallest little thing when I'm getting ready for a show. I can't even imagine being stuck in the airport like he was a couple times, and when he did that, he still looked good. It was so crazy. When he came, we expected him to kind of be like, and he really, you know, did so well. So now he came early. He went to Dubai. He was there to get the visa and then transfer over a lot simpler and bring him out sooner. And look, that's had to have made a difference. Yeah. Absolutely.
Chris, when we talk about the profile of HADI CHOOPAN, he is a bit of a throwback for bodybuilding purists who have an appreciation for his symmetry, his lines, and the obvious level of conditioning that he brings. What did you see different about him in 2022 than in the previous editions?
I agree with Sergio. He had more size on him. And the knock last year is like, you know, a lot of people thought he could have won last year, and then you have people saying he's just not big enough.
Right.
That's an argument to be made, but it could not be made this year. And that's the end of the story. You could not make that argument, and he had the same condition that he's had 17, 18, you know, the last since he's turned pro. So, you know, I think he shut the door early, you know, and I think he did enough to make it convincing very early on in prejudging.
I wanted to ask both of you this question, rather a statement that bodybuilding, I feel like, made with HADI CHOOPAN winning the Olympia. When you consider HADI CHOOPAN really does not speak much, if at all, any English. We know that he also has a hearing impediment, and obviously the visa issues have been discussed. So you sit back and you wonder, all right, obviously you judge the physiques, but then there are the intangibles, right? In terms of, well, would you really want to give the Mr. Olympia to a guy who doesn't speak English, lives in a foreign country in Iran, and you never know when he's going to come back? And I feel as if bodybuilding rewarded the right man. But certainly, again, you living in Dubai and seeing just the passion that bodybuilding fans in the Middle East have, how much bodybuilding fans that Iranians have, you heard the ovation for him. What does this victory mean for bodybuilding as a whole?
Anyone can win. I think the days of winning 8 Mr. Olympias are done. It's never going to happen. And yes, Phil and Ronnie are definitely, you know, exceptions. They just are that great. But it's not good for the sport for the same person to win over and over again. And it kind of gives hope to all of us that it could be one guy one year and then another guy the other. And not only this, too, not to take away from HADI, there's like an unspoken rule in the sport where the Mr. Olympia, when he loses, you know, if he loses bad, you know, you still put him in like a third or something like that. This is huge, having both of our current or the last 2 Mr. Olympias place the deepest in the lineup they've ever put them. There's never been a reigning Mr. Olympia to ever go from current winning to 5th or 6th. It's wild. So I think it just gives, I know not to be like cliche, but it's hope is right. What would be the answer.
Chris, again, your response to bodybuilding, the Olympia selecting the man who had the best physique, not considering any other of the intangibles.
Listen, there's a hit job out right now on bodybuilding. You know, the Washington Post says bodybuilding shows are rigged. What's unique about this sport is, and this is proof, is the judging panel picked, period, the best guy. And you can back it up even further with regards to the fans. The fans picked HADI 2 or 3 years ago. So the fans already embraced somebody who's, you know, the other, you know, the guy who doesn't speak the language, the guy who's not here, the guy's not in the magazine, the guy, you know, with the hearing impediment, the guy nobody even communicates with. He doesn't communicate with the other pros because he's not here. So, you know, this is what's unique about this sport, is when reigning Mr. Olympias are up there, and yes, they get the benefit of the doubt, but there's a doubt, and they've moved out when need be. And somebody who came from the 212 with all this, you know, non-popularity, you know, issues with him is deemed, you know, the winner by his peers, the judges, and the audience. So it's a testament to the judges just looking up there and judging, not personalities, not connections, because this is a tight-knit sport. I know everyone, and everyone knows me, and Sergio knows everyone, and your business and my business. They voted for the guy who brought it. End of story.
We will talk about Derek Lunsford, obviously, the quantum leap going to the open class and finishing in second, but really the big subplot to this night, to this weekend, is that Big Ramy goes from two-time defending Mr. Olympia to finishing in fifth place. I mean, you heard the audible gasp in the room when he was announced for fifth. Not sure how much of a surprise it was, considering all weekend he was on the outer fringes, and that towards the very, very, very end, he was moved towards the middle, perhaps maybe ceremoniously. What do you make of what happened, or what went wrong, rather, with Big Ramy?
I mean, you would have to know what's going on with his camp, because people had asked me before the show what I thought he was going to do, and it's wild because I thought he was going to for sure win. I said it's done because I was staying with him and DJ last year at DJ's place, and he was struggling. The prep was tough. His life was a little bit tougher back home. He was dealing with a lot, and then he won.
Right.
And then now he's fixed all the personal things in his life and was able to focus on bodybuilding. And I saw him in Dubai every day, just so happy and really looking like healthier. And it was just kind of like all right, inevitable. Who's coming for second? So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I mean, of course, people are going to bring up the knot in his glute, but that can't be something to take you from first to fifth. So it has to be more. But internally, I don't know what happened.
In your opinion, what went wrong with Big Ramy this weekend?
No one can speculate what went right or wrong.
Well, based off what you saw on stage.
In prejudging, he looked to me like he was both very flat and holding water at the same time. And Ramy's got the most volatile physique I think I've ever seen. I said it yesterday, he's shown up at Arnold when you were fourth, where really he could have left prejudging and been fifth. And then 6, 7, 8 hours later, he's clearly first, even though he didn't win that show. So his physique has the ability to, flip quickly. And that may have been, and why, who knows. But at the end of the day, I think that in prejudging, he was just not the dense, tight, there was enough areas of the physique, like the midsection was very watery. The shoulders and arms had retaining water, which made his arms look smaller, on that big, wide physique. He made up a lot of ground, I think, at finals. He was much tighter. But, for the bulk of these shows, the prejudging is the name of the game.
So let's, again, put a bow on this. Big Ramy, it was a 2-year run at the top of the bodybuilding world. And again, it's going to be one of those debates as far as, well, what did he do for the sport? Sergio, let's put a final note on this one about Big Ramy. Sometimes we do tend to ask, well, why is somebody not more active on social media? Bring us more into your life. Not everybody's going to be the same. Ramy is more of a private personality, but look, you would know this better than us living now in the Middle East. In the Middle East, in Egypt specifically, Big Ramy is a rock star. And what he does for the sport, we may not feel that here. It may not resonate here, but it absolutely has a monumental impact in the Middle East for what he is doing for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all saw when he won the first time, and he went back home, and the airport was just, it looked like a soccer game. It was nuts. And yeah, again, I was still living here. We're all living here. And we're like, wow, that's really cool. But we have no idea that it continued for years over there. And this is bodybuilding's fans' World Cup. This year with Morocco doing well. People are just, it's so in support, everybody coming together for one team.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing about this for everyone going forward is that it's transitioned to another Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be probably, like I said, it's going to be the World Cup of bodybuilding for them. And they're going to be cheering about this for the whole year next year. I just hope that we see HADI, now that he is that champ, that we see him again before this date next year, besides social media.
Right. No, I mean, again, in 2019, HADI's first Olympia, and he finished third, there were videos shown in the streets of Iran, and I mean entire neighborhoods. They're having like impromptu dance parties in the street, HADI getting out of his car, getting involved, so it obviously means a lot to them in the Middle East. But Chris, let's go now to Derek Lunsford, and I go specifically to you because, really for weeks now, heading into this Olympia, you had the detractors that, just again, there's always going to be the pick apart. What are the drawbacks? Well, Derek Lunsford, he might be too short to go up against the big boys. He might get a little exposed. His structure might get a little exposed against some of the bigger bodies. But you were very consistent in saying that, again, someone with his shape, his structure, and now obviously giving his body the ability to grow as opposed to restricting. In your own words, he's going to slay a lot of these guys, and slay he did.
I said he was going to win the show, and I said he's a better version of HADI. And the reason I said that is he has a better front double than HADI, I thought, and a better back double for sure than HADI, and a better V-taper, standing relaxed, and a better V-taper in the front double. So I thought he'd be able to pull it out, even with this lineup coming in, with Ramy, with Brandon, the whole 9 yards. But I think there's, as prejudging wore on, there was shades of, not 212, but HADI just had a little bit more volume, a little bit more density, a little bit more muscle maturity, where it just turned on my mind where it's like, HADI's too much this year. Having said that, Derek is remarkably dangerous going forward. HADI is phenomenal. It's not a shoo-in for him next year. I think Derek has all the tools to take it from him next year.
What do you make of Derek Lunsford, his first year, again, foregoing a defense of the 212 title, challenging himself in the open class? Your initial opinion?
Well, I think I was the one that got firsthand the taste of 212 being an open guy. And it's funny to think about it. Go back last October, Derek's been on the cusp of being able to go over the weight anyway. I'm not saying that this is it, but you're telling me Sean beating me and Regan doesn't kind of resonate to the current Mr. Olympia in 212? If he's better than Sean, why would he not? So it's crazy how maybe that put things into play, switched classes, and now he's really just able to, for the first time, just grow and do what he loves. But I've known Derek for a long time, and like Chris was saying, I remember first time seeing it, it's just like, he's for sure going to outgrow that class because, for the new fans of this sport, let's remember he won his pro card, then went to Tampa, won that, then went to the Olympia his first year. I can't imagine.
Second, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being an amateur straight to Olympia stage. So now he just literally did almost the same exact thing in the open class.
That's a really good point, yeah. No, but, the thing that impresses me, aside from the physique, obviously, Derek Lunsford does have this on-stage charisma, this on-stage personality, and it just did not seem as if this moment, this weekend, was too big for him.
No, he rose to the occasion, and he was rewarded for it. It goes back to like people would judge basically on what they brought. Names did not matter whatsoever at this show, and it's odd that a lot of the peanut gallery speculated that Derek would be, quote, too small, which is just bizarre because if you look at him in Pittsburgh, he was like the top guy on the Pittsburgh was this show.
Yeah.
He was Brandon was there. Brandon was there. Ramy was not. Nick Walker was there. And who's second place, for God's sake? So what are we talking about?
Derek.
And Derek was there. And Derek, showed there that he looked better than those guys. And, there was speculation, people are in off-season or this. He looked a lot better. So he just built on that and brought it into the Olympia, and here he is.
What, in your opinion, does Derek Lunsford have to do going forward in order to put himself in position to win the Olympia?
Literally what he just did this year. The same thing again. This guy is like I'm exaggerating, he's like 18 years old. He can just literally just keep doing the same thing, even just growing just a little bit. And I can't imagine the difference that he would make, especially with the confidence now. I mean, no matter what, he's going into a new. It's like being in the NPC and you're in a weight class and you're in a light heavy, or super heavy. You know you're going to the open. That's a different world to go into that, and you're like, man, these guys are big. So now that he's jumped in with the Sharks and ate them, I can't imagine the cortisol this guy's going to have for the whole year. He's going to blow up.
Do you feel as if this is just a situation where Derek might just need a little bit more muscle maturity, and that's just only going to come with time?
I don't think he has many needs. You know, he's second best bodybuilder in the world. You know, the devil's in the details. If you start thinking, I need this, I need that, I need this, I don't think he needs anything. If HADI was not, you know, the 4 or 5 pounds bigger that he was, Derek would be the winner. If HADI was just a little off his trademark conditioning, Derek would be the winner. It's, you know, that's how close he already is.
Let's get a thought from both of you, what you saw out of Nick Walker making his second appearance at the Olympia.
Well, that's what I told him when I gave him the medal, is that, you know, progress to progress. This guy wants, you know, it all, and that's why he is as good as he is, because, you know, he wants the whole cake. But man, progress is progress, and no matter what, getting better. You know, I know certain people that beat him, bothered him, and, you know, he did that. So sometimes small little victories add up to huge victories when you're his age, you know. So the same thing with him, you know, going into this year, he changed coaches, he moved. There's things that happen in your life that affect bodybuilding. Right. And now, again, the same thing for Derek going forward. He's got another, you know, huge chip, even more on his shoulder. I can't imagine how much more he'll grow this year, too.
What was the biggest difference, maybe biggest improvement, rather, you saw out of Nick Walker this year as opposed to his debut appearance?
I think this was a bigger version. I think last year was like a more gnarly type condition, and this was a bigger version. They're different, but you know, he's going up against two other guys that, you know, have front double and back double biceps that are problematic for him. Nick looks great, but his torso compared to like Derek's, and you know, Derek's got a fabulous V-taper. Fabulous on the front double and back double. HADI, technically his waist is wide, but he can sit on his abs so hard, and his legs are wide, and his shoulders are wide. He creates a fantastic like V-taper, or, you know, sucked in V-taper on like the front double, front lat spread. So there's optics there that are important that negate size, because clearly Nick is bigger, weighs more, there's more to him, but at this show, you know, he wasn't getting by these two. Not tonight.
Chris, you made the point, and it's a very valid one, and it's a progression really that we've seen over the course of the last couple of years, changing of the guard. Right now, I mean, we started that phrase when Ramy won, but again, as you said, Ramy is the last vestige of guys that competed against the likes of a Dennis Wolf, against the likes of a Sean Roden, against a Phil Heath, against a Kai Green. And now you look at the newcomers, you look at some of the pleasant surprises. To me, maybe the biggest standout pleasant surprise was Samson Dauda. And I don't want to say surprise necessarily as in we didn't expect him to do well, but I think he really, really impressed and showed something that maybe a lot of fans were not expecting in terms of the overall package, sort of that old school look combined with mass.
He's got, I said it last night, he can win in the future. He's wider than HADI and Derek. He's much taller.
Yeah.
He's bigger. He's got bigger legs than these guys. He's got wider shoulders. His pecs are genuinely fuller. He's got everything is there. The only thing that he needs to do from here is go next level condition. And you can't make that jump, which he just made, next level size and next level condition, all in 1 year. Just, it doesn't work that way. So
unless you're Derek.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yes and no. But Derek was for 3 years competing in the wrong division. He was the worst 212 bodybuilder in history, because if you saw him at 6 weeks out, undisputable. Not only would he win the 212, but you would say, like, he's a top 6 guy. That's how the chatter got started.
Of course.
Like, he's a top 6 guy in the Olympia. You know, when you went down and trained with them, you said, this guy's the future of the sport. I remember I said, you mean the 212? He said, no, the sport.
Well, if you remember, I mean, there was a conversation that allegedly Flex Lewis had with him, right? That basically, look, you're the future of the 212. And I think that's what a lot of people thought he was.
Going back to Samson is, you know, bells and whistles, wide shoulders, cap triceps, full pecs. Not a lot of people have full pecs on the side chest. Great midsection, great sweep to the quads. Everything is there in spades. This was a major breakthrough show for him. Goes back to the judge and the gang, because they did not quite have him, you know, right there.
Right.
And there was one important call out where they said, Samson, you stay, and whoever else was in that group, they left.
At the end of yesterday,
And they brought, you know, the top guys out, and he was in it, and that was it.
What impressed you most about Samson Dauda?
Like you said, I don't think it's anyone's shocked. It's not.
What does he bring that really stands out?
Some of that 90s feel, for sure, absolutely. You know, and of course, you know, I'm going to be the bad guy. The other thing, too, is that no matter what, if Samson was a little bit harder and Andrew Jacked was,
that's what I was
you know, his best, they are Mr. Olympia. And that's what makes it interesting, too, that next year, nothing's for sure for even HADI or Derek.
Right.
And Andrew, people don't know, you know, this guy won't talk about it. He had bronchitis. There's a lot that goes on in the sport. When you get so lean, you get sick. And it's just not one of those things where it's an excuse or whatever it is. This guy having bronchitis and sick and still, you know, even placing where he did, it's nuts. But then a real bodybuilding fan has to think, like, then what would he have looked like if he was his best, which only makes the sport even more exciting. Right. So who knows for next year?
That's where I was going to go next. Andrew Jacked, and there's so much expected of him coming into the show. And again, I think you revealed something maybe not everybody knew, that he was dealing with some bronchitis, and that may have helped contribute rather. And maybe holding a little water. What did you make of what you saw out of Andrew Jacked this weekend?
I mean, what we saw is the same of what we've seen, you know, which is, you know, the P word, potential, roundness, but, you know, we want to see Olympian level conditioning. So if you weigh, for example, you know, Samson took a lot of air out of Andrew Jack's sails, because Samson became the new Andrew Jack.
Yeah, in a
like
sense.
the round, you know, the hype, which is deserved by Andrew Jack. You know, he has not lived up to it yet, and Samson, you know, without the hype, or a little bit of hype, took it to another level. So I think that takeaway there is that, you know, Samson going to another level, and Andrew we're getting the same old, which is not bad, but we want to see something special.
Let's close this out on a positive note. Chris Bumstead winning his 4th straight Classic Physique Olympia title. And I think maybe the bigger story than that was what he said on the microphone right after, and that was ending any speculation of him retiring. There were murmurs that, you know, well, maybe Chris is going to win this one and just decide he no longer wants to compete or needs to compete or whatever. We obviously know of his immense popularity, his immense social media following, and again, those questions are abound as to whether or not he would have the desire given his history of health issues. But I thought that was a profound moment. Gentlemen, Chris, start with you first. What did you see just in terms of a progression for Chris Bumstead, and what did that mean to you in terms of him coming out and saying, look, I'm not done yet, I'm going to be back for more?
I mean, the progression, I thought this was the best version of Chris Bumstead we've seen. I
feel like we say that every year, though.
What's that?
I feel like we say that every year, though.
Well, well, that's a testament to him as a bodybuilder. I mean, for God's sakes, we talk about other bodybuilders who say he's better 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think Chris Bumstead, from day one, has consistently improved. And you know, he had an emotional moment where, and a dangerous moment where he said, you know, I'm enjoying this now, because when you can be focused on being the best bodybuilder that you want to be, but also enjoying it, you can take your body to the next level because the drive is from inside you. You know, there's external forces. You know, you want to prove people wrong. You know, you want to do this. You want to, you know, make a point.
It sent me back home so motivated. That's great. But putting your eggs all into one basket every time, after a while, you haven't qualified for the Olympia in a while. So that has to change. So I want to do something early, get qualified, and get that pressure off my back. I want to be back here. I want to do it. So I want to try and shoot for maybe, I don't know, April. I got to talk to this guy over here.
Okay.
And I don't know. Maybe I'll go out to Brazil.
Regardless, it's just good to see you in a good place. And I think I speak for the entire bodybuilding fan base. Good to see a smile back on your face. That is going to do it for us. We thank you for staying with us all weekend as we have taken you through Olympia weekend. For Chris Aceto, Sergio Oliva Jr., our entire team. Kaz, you want to come say hello, wave to the fans? This guy has been the MVP of our entire coverage. Lionel Castellano, photo by Kaz. If you want a great photographer, videographer, he did literally all of that for us and more all weekend. If you want to reach out to him, photo by Kaz. For everyone involved, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. Thank you for watching RXMuscle.com.